Hi, I'm Emifal. I'll be voicing over several videos recorded by my friend during their recent expedition to the Dimension 90DQ. I only had about a week to get all of this together, thanks Summer, so I'm probably going to butcher some of these pronunciations, including the example text at the end, which is here because this video is going to be mostly about mririnya, one of the languages spoken in this dimension. Hello, this is Summer from the expedition to Dimension 92Q. We weren't supposed to explore this dimension, as like with all dimensions whose codenames beginning with 9, this one is meant to be unsuitable for any life to persist, and normally it would be. Apparently in this dimension, Venus and Mercury are gone, and Mars and Earth have switched places, placing this alternate version of Earth outside of the habitable zone. But apparently the Earth in this dimension was colonized by cat-like alien species from a different solar system. Apparently they arrived here 2,000 years ago on a huge interstellar ship that's currently in Earth's orbit. Since then they built a lot of things like this giant wall behind me, or apparently there's Anyways, this all activity has caused the planet to heat up and become inhabitable, so now there's weather and stuff, and also lots of structures look very weird because there's no longer a huge snow cap over the surface of Earth, so their foundation is massive. I hope I won't forget to add pictures to this because you really need to see it. Anyways, the cat people spaceship took like 10,000 years to get here, and a lot has changed in their culture since then. Apparently the homeworld cat people were afraid that the people in the ship would revolt or something, so they cut off contact after the departure, but the people actually like living together in a huge interstellar ship, so this only led to stuff like our knowledge of the homeworld being frozen in the year minus 10,000, and our language separating a lot from the one spoken back in the homeworld. This is enough for an introduction, right? Okay then. Wait, I should cut. As I think was mentioned in the introduction video, the language spoken here is descended from a language spoken on the homeworld planet 10,000 years ago. It's changed a lot since then. All changes were documented in detail by Lilray, the spaceship AI who is supposed to keep the ship's systems as well as its ecosystem running. So the language the local one is directly descended from is called mririnya, but I prefer calling it Mandarin. Its endonym is translated as continental. There is also another language unrelated to continental called Nero, which translates to end, named that apparently because the islands it was spoken on were considered to be the end of the world in the ancient time. Anyways, this language has influenced Protosolar a lot too. Right, Protosolar is what we call the language spoken on the spaceship before it split into other languages. The languages being Proto-Ship, Proto-Earth, Proto-Mars, and various other small colony languages. Since we're currently on Earth, we only had time to research in depth the local languages, those being Northern, Central Plain, Western Plain, and Southeastern, which is spoken here in Limerick. The languages here are pretty interesting phonologically. For one, almost all sounds are nasalized and voiced for some reason. We haven't figured this one out yet, but this seems to be cross-linguistic, so we assume this is connected to some kind of anatomical or cognitive restraint. I say almost all sounds because the consonants we classified as laryngeals are neither voiced nor nasal for unknown reasons too. Side note, we didn't know that when I made the notation because Southeast Earth doesn't have laryngeals, so every time you see a nasalized voiced laryngeal, assume it's plain voiceless instead. Okay, there's also a class of consonants I stupidly named stops, as if nasals aren't stops, as if most sounds aren't nasal, so now it's all over the phonology. Anyways, these consonants correlate with nasals a lot, so we have a theory that there are actually laryngealized nasals, which is why they're non-nasal, or half-nasal? Anyways, so we're using voice stop by PA symbols for these. Okay, so for 2, the possible places of articulation here are somewhat different. Firstly, the cat people don't have a uvula, so no uvular sounds. Secondly, their mouths have more space, allowing for more distinct sounds, leading to more places of articulation being common. And thirdly, their tongues are longer and more fast, making retroflex consonants much harder to pronounce, so much that no language I know of has them, but also allowing for a somewhat common class of external lingual consonants, which include interlabials, which are pronounced as the flat part of the tongue on the upper lip, and also linguonasals, which are pronounced by obstructing the nose airflow with the tongue. There's a nose-licking phoneme. For 3, the cat people can purr as a secondary articulation. We still haven't figured out the mechanism for this one, but we know it doesn't affect the vocal cords. Both consonants and vowels can be purred, which is marked with a superscript R in my transcription system. Purring distinction is very common across cat lengths, on the level of the voicing distinction for human languages. Finally, cat people can't round their lips, but they can still open and close them, so labial sounds are still a thing, and there's even labialization, which I marked with a superscript beta to distinguish it from lip rounding. Southeast Earth has a very unusual phonology, even for cat people. Its consonants are... Oh god, do I have to pronounce all of that? Okay. Ma, 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 na, nya, 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 ma, ma, nga, nga, ma, ba, 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 da, ja, 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 ba, ba, ga, wa, za, ja, 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 ra, ra, la, ra, ya, ra. All consonants can also be paired, resulting in an inventory of 80 phonemic consonants, which are romanized and should be shown in the screen now. Southeast Earth has two vowels. The first vowel ranges from E to E, and the second one ranges from A to A, harmonization of which should be shown on the screen now too. The two vowels can be accented, marked with an acute. The way accent works is by changing pitch. It starts low and rises to its highest at the accented vowel, quickly dropping right afterwards. When there's two accented syllables next to each other, the pitch peaks at the first one, stays high between them, and falls right after. Multisyllabic words always have an accent, while monosyllabic words are always unaccented. The syllable structure isn't very complicated. There are no initial consonant clusters, and final clusters must begin with y or ra. The medial clusters can theoretically be very complicated, but those are rare. Also, no vowel clusters are allowed, so they merge together in complicated ways, which also affects the consonants, so there's that. What else is there? Plosives don't appear word initially, as they come from nasal clusters, and nya become r between vowels. Southeast Earth is somewhat simple when it comes to grammar. There are only three parts of speech: verbs, nouns/adjectives, and adverbs. Only a verb is required to make a sentence, so you don't need a subject or an object to complete it. Though when those do appear, they come before and after the verb respectively, meaning that the default word order is SVO, though again you don't need anything but the verb. Verb conjugation is pretty simple. There are 6 forms, 3 positive and 3 negative. Indicative is used for real actions, subjunctive is used for hypotheticals, which also includes questions, and imperative is used for orders, though subjunctive can also be used for that to soften the order. Nouns and adjectives are the same lexical class, but they are treated differently. Adjectives never take case endings, and by the way also always come before the head. However, nouns must always take one of the 17 case endings. Nominative and accusative are used for subjects and objects respectively. Genitive is used for relations like possession, but also commonly for expressing similarity. Commentative case has the same meaning as the preposition with, but that overlaps with genitive, so it's kind of rare. Abessive means without, and benefactive means for the benefit of. All other 11 cases are used for location and movement, usage of which is summarized by the chart that should be on the screen right now. It's easier to think of cases here as prepositions that are attached to nouns they refer to. That's basically what they are really, as these case suffixes used to be particles in proto-Solar, which got suffixed onto nouns later on. The same thing has actually happened with all particles, which can be attached to any word now. Finally, there's adverbs, most of which are formed by adding sia to a root, though there's a lot of adverbs formed with mirai instead. There are also bai and mei, but they are rare, and the first one can be converted to mirai without changing meaning for most adverbs anyways. Southeast Earth is written with a logography derived from a writing system developed around 14,000 years ago. It got digitalized 12,000 years ago, and its shape hasn't changed much since. There is a set of radicals, which come from pictographs and which can be combined into bigger characters, which themselves can be combined into even bigger characters. These combinations may be derived from meaning, but also pronunciation at the time of coining, or both at the same time. Also, digitalization apparently simplified lots of characters using consistent rules to make rendering easier, so radical positions shift around when combined sometimes. Anyways, this writing system is actually somewhat convenient for Southeast Earth, as it helps to distinguish homophones in writing, which are pretty common across the language. The characters are written left to right without spaces. Also, a combination of radicals, full glyphs, and programming language symbols is used at the end of text to write emoticons, usually shared into 2 characters. The emoticons are obligatory, as text without them would look weird to native speakers. They kinda work like tone tags, except that they primarily express emotion rather than tone or intent. mririnya mera. Mririnya rani yatai mingami. Riri mera yatai are mengsang mingami. Hiri rinya ranya yai ranya ami. Rinya dasa meranya ami. Meranya ini ranya lindra. Mingmin ranya ini yandra yataindra. Rinya mikpi minini. Hizrinya yi yingmi ranya yisini. Haming minya ira. Yai ranya yandra minya yamara. Yata zang mi. Riri ranya lindra mi lilra.